having a mental health issue is not a crime, and it should not be treated as such.
I am just wondering if that person in front of them was their brother or their best friend or their son. How would they have handled this?
How can you say no to a mother's plea, right? You ask me why I do it. How can you say no to that?
Thank you so much for joining us today in order to speak about this very important issue where Miguel Delos Santos, 27 years old, suffered gunshot wounds at the hands of police officers. Mrs. Delos Santos, Stephanie, the first question is to you. Talk to us about your son. How was he growing up?
Miguel was born and raised here in Washington. Very sweet kid and thoughtful, he always thinks about others first, very helpful, and he's so considerate. He likes to play with Legos like all boys, and he's so organized. He'd organize them by color and shapes, and he'd make very creative with the toys. And that's also, he was pretty good with patterns in school. He was part of the challenge program. He's a gifted program in school. And he wanted very much to be a firefighter when he grows up. And he went to the fire academy. That's after he said, he went to 2 years of pre-med because I asked him to, but he said he really wanted to be a firefighter. We went to the Philippines a few times, and he stayed there to get to know relatives, and he enjoyed it a lot. He learned how to speak Tagalog, but when they come over here, they're English again.
Right.
And so we speak English at home with the kids, but he can understand some Tagalog. He's just a joy to be with. He loves his little brother so much.
You're sharing this with us. It seems like he had a very normal childhood, Legos, going back to the Philippines, meeting relatives there, coming back here, and even like trying to please you, right? As his mom, going to bed for 2 years, just to kind of give you your wishes, right?
Yeah. Masuno rin.
Right. So when and how did you realize that Miguel had some mental health issues?
He got quiet in his teenage years, and we just thought that's normal for teenagers. And sometimes he told us that he thought about suicide, and then we told him, okay, we can take you to the doctor. And then later on, he changed his mind. He said, no, I don't need to see the doctor anymore. I'm okay. So we did not pursue that, which I regret that, because I should have paid attention when he said that. I think that's one of the lessons we learned here is no matter how small we think it is, we have to pay attention to it. Because in our culture, wala po tayong ganun na, we're okay even when we're not okay. That's our Filipino culture. We try to put on a smile, and life is really hard in the Philippines. So we just learn to just get up every day and do what we have to.
That Tagalog word of kinikimkim. Kinikimkim lang natin, whatever it is we're feeling, experiencing, especially if it's negative, we don't want to be a burden to other people by sharing it, right?
That's right. And, this guy is not somebody who complains a lot. I wouldn't even know that he's sick, If I don't hug him, and then I'll feel that, oh, you're hot, you have a temperature. And he's like, yeah, I'm not feeling good. I wouldn't know that because he doesn't tell us. It's like that. I mean, but when it's him, he would one time he was driving by and he saw that the neighbor tripped, and this lady, um, she's elderly, so he parked, he got out of the car, helped her up, and then so she was bleeding. He went back to our house and got some first aid stuff for her. So he's just really helpful.
Right.
He's a nice guy.
So you're saying that there ever a clinical diagnosis of his condition?
When he went to California, he saw a doctor over there who gave him medication, and he told me that he may be bipolar. So that's when I found out that, oh, okay, there's a clinical diagnosis for him.
Right.
But that's in Washington, yeah.
Right, and he was taking medications to address that, right? Right.
Yes.
Cielo, let's talk about your fiancé. He sounds like a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, he's a great partner, but an even better father. I think to sum it up, especially if we were ever going to play a family game, my daughter would always pick him first to be on her team. Not even me. It was always him. So she loves her dad and stuff. He's very helpful. He never wanted me to worry about anything. So it's been a tragedy for him to really be gone.
Did you know about Miguel's mental health issues?
He told me certain things in passing, but I've never dealt with anybody really with mental health issues before, so I didn't think anything of it. He's always been an amazing person to me. He's always been just really a connector, someone who's a helper, someone who is really your go-to guy. So there was no true signs that he was in distress, and I wish I saw something more.
Right. So what do you think triggered him?
I don't know. We live such a healthy lifestyle. Honestly, the only change I can think of was that lack of being able to lead our normal lives. Really, with the pandemic, we both lost our jobs. There was we were supposed to get married in 2020. That was devastating, so that didn't happen. There was no more gyms. So I think honestly, just that lack of routine and that impact had a lot to do with it. Also, that financial security too, losing that, because he's the main breadwinner. He takes care of his family. So and like his mother said, he doesn't tell anybody about his problems. He never wants me to worry about anything. So he was probably going under a lot of stress.
Right. Was there ever an indication, Mrs. Stephanie, that Miguel was undergoing a lot of stress and was keeping it all in?
The only time that I know that he was maybe worried and I thought it was normal is because he said, oh, the stipend in California is gonna end soon, so I better go get a job soon. And he has been trying, but he said he's just gonna take it up a notch and go find a job. So I know he was worried somehow with the financial side. And also, he has aged out of his dad's insurance. We had him on insurance when he was, until he was 26. And we reminded him to get some insurance, but maybe because it was also at the same time with COVID, it was hard to go out and do anything. He did good for over a year of that without his medications. I think he was really under stress about financials and the lack of socialization, just the whole COVID stuff.
Attorney Espina, we're going through different times, right? We've gone through a very odd time, a very odd year. But in your years of practice in law, I'm sure that you had different cases also that's come out because of COVID.
Yes. In 26 years of practice, the last year has been most challenging because of the depressed economy and the fears of uncertainty. But yes, I definitely know, I represent a lot of plaintiffs, and I definitely know that they had been experiencing difficulties locating mental health specialists. The mental health therapists they're all backlogged with appointments. It takes a long time to find a good one, and you have to, interview one. Is there a fit or is there not a fit? And then you go to the next one. But yes, including young children, school-aged children who are having difficulties. And I have unfortunately had to deal with that on some of my cases this past year. So it's been a challenge altogether, the uncertainty, the turbulent times that we have led, the anger and vehemence in social media, isolation, financial stress. What we see or what we have seen in Miguel, unfortunately, is not uncommon.
What did you see in this case? What did you first hear about this case? What made you pay attention to this case?
In the first instance, I had reached a stage in my practice and I was enjoying my grandson and just relaxed, I closed out a few cases and I thought, it's going to be an easy summer. I was looking forward to an easy summer. But there was a phone call that came on Saturday a week ago that I could not take. And it was Dobie, Stephanie. Stephanie, we go a long way. We're schoolmates. And I'm a few years older than Stephanie. And so I had to take the call. Mm-hmm. And when I heard about the circumstances and I knew these are issues very close to my heart. You know that, Jannelle, the social justice issues with regard to mentally disabled, undue force on the part of law enforcement, unfortunately, the lack of training in dealing with people who are undergoing crises and dumping mental health individuals onto a criminal justice system. It's the fit isn't there. It should not happen this way. So you cannot say no as a lawyer. These are issues that are exciting if they were not so tragic. So there was no way I could say no and not take this case. There's a moral obligation to take it.
Because we have an eyewitness, actually, Cielo, could you tell us what happened?
In the morning, I woke up to Miguel on the side of the bed in a fetal position. He was shaking, largely unresponsive. And when I saw his eyes roll back, that's when I called paramedics. They tried to get him out, but at that point, he managed to grab a pen and start stabbing himself in the neck. Got him out of the house, got him on the gurney, took him away. I thought he was going to be gone for the next 72 hours or so, but come to the second incident when he shows up at my house.
So at around 4 p.m. of the same day, he came back. He was discharged. Did he seem like he was ready to be discharged? Did he?
No, absolutely not, especially since I saw him show up at my door in some bright blue hospital socks.
So when he came back at 4 p.m., you called 911 again?
Yes, they got him out without incident.
All right, and then in less than an hour, he shows up again at you. At this point, were you asking him?
Tried to, but he's not in the best mental state. And this is over, a period of over 12 hours. Mm-hmm. He was very scared for his life. This should have been handled completely differently. It was just so mishandled.
The mishandling came through 5 or 6 gunshots fired. The officers are maintaining that Miguel was holding a knife and was posing a threat.
I was fixated on his face that entire time, so I don't recall seeing any knives, but I do recall the statement that the official statement that the sheriff sent out after the entire incident. And they basically said that Miguel was out there and they reported on there that he was out there and holding a butcher knife one in each hand. And we don't even own a butcher knife, let alone 2 of them. So the fact that they're trying to bring out all of this information and without even knowing the facts or having it straight or taking the time to really fact check it. It's disheartening. It's concerning.
Attorney Espina, in layman's terms, para maintindihan ng mga viewers, what is the crux of the case and where do you see this going?
It's very early. It's preliminary. So we are trying to ascertain facts. Okay. There's an overlay here of three systems: the medical system, the paramedic system, and law enforcement systems. It's a very complex case. And so where I see things going is critical information gathering and asking appropriate questions of institutions as to how this can happen within a period of 2:30 in the morning until 8:30 that night. 3 calls to paramedics. And the biggest thing for me is why there was an inability to contain this person the first time. And when that first opportunity to hold him, you know, in California, we have a provision for 72-hour holds, where if somebody is in a state, you know, you can, of serious harm to himself or harm to himself, you certainly make assessment and you hold them for 72 hours so you can do proper intake, proper diagnosis, and then intervention and further treatment if necessary. So I don't know what happened or how he presented himself, certainly to medical officials, enough for them to say you are fit for discharge. That's number one.
Right.
Both the mother, Stephanie, and Cielo both had a sense, because Stephanie spoke to him on the phone the first time at the hospital, and she had the sense, even from the phone conversation, that he should not be discharged. That's one. So a lot of questions. I'm sorry, Jannelle, I can't give you answers, but a lot of questions. That's first. The second, he returns to the house and he's disheveled in hospital shoes. So you're thinking, was he discharged or not?
Yeah.
He shows up at about 4 o'clock in an even heightened state of agitation and concern, and this time concerned about people coming to hurt him, people coming to kill him, and afraid. So he retreats in the bedroom, and that prompts the second 911 call. And again, the paramedics and law enforcement came, and without real incident, he voluntarily walked out. And I believe he voluntarily walked out, got on that gurney, and they took him away. Within an hour of that happening, he shows up at the door of his home. And poor woman is answering the door back and forth between Miguel and paramedics and law enforcement. She's answering back and forth within the hour, and you are thinking, they took him away the second time. Did he get to the hospital? Did he remain in the ambulance? Did he escape the ambulance? If he escaped from that ambulance, how could it be that he got to the house before the ambulance? You would expect that they would come rushing to look for him, to come to get him. That did not happen. He got to the house. A lot of people need to answer a lot of questions. And that third call, when this time they came with a psych team, right? The medics, the psych team, and then there's law enforcement. And what happened there was a 2-hour period. I think they came at, the call was at 5:05. Let's assume, typically 15, 20 minutes. We're still trying to pin down the timeline. They come in and they talk to him. The psych team spoke with him, and Cielo can further recount what she observed. And then, alternating between psych team, medic, and law enforcement can confuse a person, or he could confuse him further or agitate him, because if you're saying, we're not going to hurt you, we're not going to kill you, or whatever, come out, trust us. And then on the other hand, you see law enforcement with weapons and firearms visible. You don't create, I think, even to normal lay people like us, You don't create a sense of confidence. So I'm not understanding why he was forced out. He had been threatening himself from 2:30. He had not hurt himself. He had not hurt anyone. Why there was a necessity to respond? You don't shoot someone just because they have knives. There are less lethal means, rubber bullets. I suppose we will find that out, and part of what we want right now is just a transparency of the investigation, so that we will find out what happened. There should be body cameras, the statement of, the paramedics, the statement of the psych team, and whatever law enforcement response could have been had. And so I know where the issues will lead us, but it takes information from the other side to resolve those issues. And then the legal question here is that standard of care. Did the law enforcement officers apply excessive force or disproportionate force in the face of whatever danger they had perceived? And that question is a reasonable officer standard. And that's a legal question to be decided.
You've raised a lot of valid questions. And I know that at this point, there's still more questions than answers, but have you gotten answers on any of those questions? Have you spoken to anyone from those three institutions? Have they offered any explanation?
No. I had sent a letter to the investigating officer with the sheriff's department. That formal letter went out Thursday or Friday last week. I have not heard from them. So I assume they are also investigating things. And at some point, parties will speak. I do have the preliminary discharge papers from the hospital, and there is nothing there. I had just gone over it with an internist, and there's nothing there contributory, at least from a substance perspective, to the episode of paranoia or schizophrenia. In short, hindi siya lasing, hindi siya high, walang drugs sa katawan niya. So it might have been organic, yung cause ng kanyang medical episode. So if people say he might have been on drugs and he was drunk, we have no issues such as that. And of course, that incident with the escape, I'm very, very curious. If you're the paramedics and you're bringing a patient who the second time makes threats to harm himself and he escapes, what happened there? I'd be first running back into the house in my ambulance. I bet I would get to the house sooner than someone who was on foot. So a lot of questions, Jannelle. 3 times. And how many times does a person have to call 911 to get somebody? He's slightly built. He's a slim young man, a good-looking slim young man. And I don't know, very, very troubling. And unfortunately, as we already know, we cannot trust official statements most of the time. We do not want to cast aspersions, but most of the time, as we have known, we cannot trust official statement, and we really need to dig through the facts.
Right. That's why we have to push to you're right, dig the facts, push for the truth to come out, right? Stephanie, how did you find out that something really bad happened to Miguel? At what point did you find out?
Cielo texted us after midnight. And I check my messages like past 1, I think. And she mentioned that he got shot. And he said about 5 or 6 times. I don't know how to describe it. We thought we lost him. And you know, a lot of us think that childbirth is the most painful thing that a mother would ever go through. Happy are those mothers if that's the most painful thing that they would ever go through. Because that was nothing compared to how I felt that night. And to think that the circumstances, that all day long he was troubled and he thought that he was not safe the whole day. And I thought that was his last day, I thought that was the last day.
I think it was
awful.
right. It was prophetic. He said, "Somebody's going to kill me. Somebody's going to hurt me." He was quite prophetic. I mean, the irony.
Right. I can understand what you're going through, Stephanie, as well. You know, we're all moms here. And as a mom, I can only imagine. You want the best for your children. You don't ever want to see them hurt. When they're sick, you want for them to pass on the illness to you, so that you're the one suffering instead of them. And then to have to get that call in the middle of the night saying that your son, whom you haven't seen, has been shot. Like, I'm sure at that point there were more questions than answers. Cielo, what was that like? Seeing the man that you love fall to the ground at the hands of the very same people that you called, that you thought would help him?
It was devastating to see him treated like that, to say the least. I mean, I trusted these people with his life, and yeah, the police are meant to protect and to serve. They're not meant to exacerbate the situation and make it worse. So I wish things weren't handled that way. Had I known that this is the way that they were going to treat a medical emergency, I would have never called. And it sucks that mistrust in these departments is there, but it was devastating. He didn't deserve this at all.
Attorney Espina, 5 or 6 shots to restrain a man who was, even if he was posing harm to himself, even if he was suicidal. So what? You shoot him?
You expedite the process, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the irony. That's the irony. And it's an issue we don't just experience here. There are now a lot of states modifying how they respond to mental health calls, so that law enforcement, particularly our hyper-militarized law enforcement now, are probably quite ill-equipped to deal with the mental health calls of this nature. There should be a better way to go about how we do this, because more often than not, mental health or the mentally disabled or those laboring under mental conditions meet with law enforcement, and most often than not, it results in their death. And this is a growing problem, and it needs to be addressed at the different levels, at the assembly, in legislature, in the court system, in the medical system, in law enforcement training and retraining. And we have not funded our social services institutions. And Jannelle, I mean, the irony, it's the thing that in my mind, this case is tragic, because they had 3 times the opportunity
to help him,
clean it and help him.
He needed help. Not help rather than hurt. You know.
he didn't need 5-6 bullets in his body,
Mhm.
wrecking his body and his future. It's just tragic, and we know change needs to happen, and that's why part of the reason here is we want to raise awareness about this situation, both to law enforcement and the community, so that there is some push for change.
Reform, yes.
We need a better system of dealing with this. And I thought it was ironic that it came just as we were ending, the Prevent Asian Hate or Hate Awareness Month for AAPI, and then the next month of Mental Health Awareness Month, and then this happens. The timing is just horrendous.
This case also reminds me of Angelo Quinto. Angelo
Yeah.
Quinto, very, very, very similar, right? But that's a different story. I know we're happy and thankful that Miguel is, although he was taken to the hospital, underwent a lot of surgeries, was in the ICU. We're happy that he is at least now recovering, correct? And Stephanie, there is light at least, because you know that you can still hug him, you can still talk to him. If you can talk to him now, though, what would be your message? What would you tell him?
I will tell him that I love him so much. And I believe in him. We're all here rooting for him, and we are here for him every step of the way. We will walk with him, and we're right here.
Right. Cielo, your message for him, if he could hear you right now, if you could talk to him.
I wouldn't want to say anything that would devastate him. He doesn't need to worry about any of this that's going on in the outside world, any proceedings, anything. He just needs to focus on staying healthy and staying strong and thinking in his mind. So some good needs to come out of this. So
right. Stephanie, as a mom, we're celebrating Mother's Day. How are you feeling right now that you've gone through this in the span of 2-3 weeks? I can understand the roller coaster of emotions when you first got the call and thinking maybe he might be gone and now he's recovering, but then there's still this cloud of doubt over what really happened, right? It's still there.
It's a miracle that he's still with us here. And I'm so thankful that we get another chance to show him that we love him, and that's not how it ended for him. That would have been a really bad way to go. But now he knows we love him. We are here for him. My hopes for him is that he would heal physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And my Mother's Day wish is that no mother and no father and no family would ever have to go through this. And that we love our children. We keep them safe. We don't want this to ever happen. We want our children to be safe wherever they are. And I hope that changes would come where somebody who comes with mental illness at the hospital and is suicidal, hurting themselves, that they would be treated with love and compassion and get the medical attention that they need, because mental health it's a medical condition, like if you have cancer or diabetes.
Any other advice to moms that are watching right now on how to deal with mental health issues in their children?
Pay attention to your children. Don't take this lightly, and don't blame yourself. You didn't do this, and they didn't do this. It's a medical condition that deserves medical attention. And I would advise that you get information as much as possible and get support. NAMI is a support group that you can go to, and just keep pushing for your child's safety.
Thank you for that. And I know it wasn't easy for you to recall everything and to talk to us today, but thank you for finding the strength and the courage to share Miguel's story so that others may learn from it, right? Attorney Espina, this is going to be a very difficult battle. We are going against institutions.
You got to do them. That's the thing. If they're not difficult, there wouldn't be merit in doing them. It's just like chewing gum, and there's no value to that. A person only lives once in a lifetime. You got to do something good in that. You got to make it matter. You got to make it mean something. If anything good that can come out of this situation, then I would have done, the family and Cielo and Miguel, the service that they deserve. Miguel was failed by systems. Miguel was failed by institutions. He cannot be failed by his lawyer or any lawyer. Again, the law is there, advocates are there to help him and help the family navigate here. And he's got two strong women here watching out for him and taking care of the emotional needs. And I think certainly am not afraid. Institutions are made of people, and these institutions and people within these institutions have families. And people care. People are good. People want to help other people. And we need to have the change at that level of the human being to the human being. And then maybe we will make institutional changes. But the law certainly should be the vehicle to correct things or make plaintiffs whole or make families whole. And we're going to do that. So yeah, it's a difficult case, but life is difficult. Doing nothing is difficult.
Actually, yes, doing nothing. If you see injustice, doing nothing, it's even more difficult, right? And so we ask everyone to also keep themselves updated with the case, right? And Attorney Espina, we're gonna hope that you're gonna keep us updated so we can update the viewers as well and figure out how we can support the family as a community.
It's not just this family, it's our community, Jannelle. We Filipinos are not very politicized. We're the ideal immigrant because we say yes and we smile and we don't like to talk about unpleasant things. Unfortunately, we've got to do that. We've got to learn.
That's got to change.
That's got to change. And we have other groups that can teach us, and we can partner with other groups. And I love this, diverse, racially diverse relationship between Miguel and Cielo. It is, it's a hopeful step that we are all just human beings, and we can change, we can effect change.
So Cielo, maybe last words from you. You're also a mom, right? And you're a fiancé, and you saw a lot. It must be traumatizing. What did you learn from all this that you can impart to our viewers?
I guess final words to impart is that I hope people realize that having a mental health issue is not a crime, and it should not be treated as such. Mental health awareness is a topic that is more commonly talked about now, but I think it's time to put more emphasis on teaching people exactly how to handle these situations safely and compassionately. That's what we need. So.
Any last words, Stephanie?
Yes, I have a question for the police department. I would just like to know why this happened, you know? And I know that they had Miguel in front of them, and they were seeing this person, and he's a human being. They forgot that somebody loves this human being. He is someone's best friend, someone's brother or son. And I am just wondering if that person in front of them was their brother or their best friend or their son, how would they have handled this?
Thank
So,
you.
Jannelle, how can you say no to a mother's plea, right? You ask me why I do it. How can you say no to that?
Right. You know, it's palpable, no, the emotions. I can feel the anger, the concern, the elation that he's on the mend, Miguel, but then really the anger at the people who were responsible supposedly to help him, right? And so I hope that this is not the last time that we have you women, very strong women here on the show. We would love to get updates, Attorney Espina, and we would love to help amplify in whatever way we can, right? But
the media has a great role in social change. You know that. We thank you for even shedding light on this small case, because we also need you. We have to partner with you.
But thank you for calling us. Yes, it's not small. Stephanie and Cielo, thank you for coming out with your strength to share the story with us. I know it's not easy recounting such a traumatic experience, but thank you, and you can count on us to support you and support Miguel and support, everyone that's suffering from mental health issues. And you're right, they need to be treated with compassion. They need to be treated as human beings. Thank you for now. For what it's worth, I'm still going to greet each and every one of you a happy Mother's Day. And we hope to get together under better circumstances in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.